pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for attending. This evening's agenda, we have 6 o'clock, the Board of Assessors regarding the discussion of the tax mapping proposal that we heard about a few months ago. And at 6:30, we're going to begin the budget reviews for the treasurer, the cemetery, patriotic purposes, building inspector. Then we have a meeting with Chief Lunn regarding detail rates, and a non-public after that. So, without further ado, Board of Assessors, we have a copy of the correspondence today. Yes.
Why don't we just start, and then we're going to defer to Frank, because Frank's done a lot of research on it, but there's a problem with our tax maps, and there has been. Acreages are way off. If you take the tax maps and superimpose them on a real-world map, you'll find that your house might be in the middle of 124. Your neighbor's is just about. They basically, nothing lines up. And it doesn't just affect us here. I keep finding that when I pinpoint my own house, which is next door to my old one, it still thinks it's all one property. So it actually sucks in, there's information coming from our data in Regional Planning Commission, and it's being sucked up all over the place, right? So we have a problem with the maps, and especially when you try and then put other layers on top of it, multiple layers, you're not gonna have things in the right place. And our maps really go back, I think, to the 1970s, when John Preston made a set of tax maps for the town. And and he did it in a way that was common at the time. Literally by hand, they were big drawings. When they became digitized, they used to digitize the drawings. In the last, I'm going to say at least 5 to 10 years, maybe 5, 6, 7 years, the Regional Planning Commission has been doing our tax maps. And without getting into the technical part of it, they don't do the whole job. They produce a map that looks like a map. But if you take the data out of it and try and do anything with it, it's incomplete. They're not doing it the whole job. So basically what we're here for is to ask for your support in curing the problem over the next couple of years. So I'll let Frank pick up from there.
If you remember when we had our demonstration a few months ago, we actually saw some of those overlays and how the property lines actually went out into the middle of streets and what have you. And it's just something that we really have to address. Now, some months ago, I got a printout of the Avatar property list, and I matched that up to every one of the properties listed on the map. Okay? What I found was that if you take the land area of New Ipswich, it's 21,152 acres.
How many again, Frank?
21,152. It's 33.05 square miles is what the town is. The Avatar file, when we totaled all the acreage up, I was short by 373 acres. So there's a possibility that those acres are not being taxed.
Just a question, is that the roads?
I have no idea what it is.
Okay.
I'm just saying there's a difference. The difference between what I did was, on my Excel spreadsheet, I listed the properties, and then I listed on the map if it was higher on the map or lower on the map from what was on the file. Okay? And I had 375 differences. I'm not saying they're mistakes, I'm just saying they don't. Okay, the map was 455.99 acres plus. If I look at the plus side. If I look at the minus side, on other properties, it amounted to 512.9 acres that it was short. So maybe overall we're even, but there's differences, substantial differences. And then I also did a summary of the current use acreage. And between the Avatar total and my check, there was a difference of 274 acres. And Avatar is saying that 64.7% of the land in New Ipswich is under current use. And with the totals that I got off of it, it's at 63.4. So it's not a whole lot of a difference. But again, there's a difference of 270 acres that may or may not be taxed. Okay, so these are the kinds of things. Now, if a resident were to come in and say, I'm questioning, you know, the acreage that I'm being taxed, you know, the map says this, the card says this. I had a discussion with the Department of Revenue, and I said, you know, we have to update our maps every year, so wouldn't the map be correct if it was different from the card? And he says, neither of them are correct. The only thing that's correct is the deed. So with that in mind, if a customer, if our customers, I guess, comes in and sees us, they have an expense they have to take on to correct the situation. And that can be very costly. And there's many possibilities out there that would have to be fixed. So it's with this as a background and looking at our proposal that we've been given to correct our situation. The first one that they talk about is basically, it was, let's see if it's on this one or not.
It's the 40,000.
Yeah, the $40,000 one isn't on here. What it is they gave us two proposals when they were here. One of them was a 12 to 15 or 16 month project costing around $40,000. And all they would be doing was putting a framework around this data. They wouldn't be checking anything, they'd just get our property to fit the map without checking anything. That's really not what the board wants to see. What we'd like to see is everything corrected and brought up to today's standards. And with that, we are supporting this more expensive 3-year plan, $130,000 over 3 years. But they're reviewing the deeds, the survey plans, and they're going through everything, all the data, to make sure that things are correct. And that's something we're looking for. And we're saying $130,000, but it's only a third of that a year. You know, so it's what we would like to see happen. The ongoing costs once it's up, they're saying $1,500 to $1,900 a year to do the updates. That price is less than we're having our maps done now. The current cost is over
It's-
2,000?
Yeah, a little over 2,000, yeah.
That's a yearly cost?
Yeah.
Yes, to do the updates,
And not do it right.
you know.
Right.
That's the problem.
Well, they're doing the updates according to the plans, it's a subdivision.
They're
plans
not
that
doing it
they're
right,
updating.
Joanne.
They're not doing those right?
Well, they make.
They're doing it with what they have as their
I can
baseline.
understand
Wrong to
that.
begin.
Yes, so the
I
baseline,
can- I
yeah.
can give you a subdivision,
Mm-hmm.
one that I did, okay? They got it wrong. It shows on the map, but it's not in the data when they export the data. The best way to describe it is that there's two steps they had to do, they did one, okay? And they used to do it right, but they went through a number of mappers. And somewhere along the line, it got screwed up. So we don't think it's necessarily being done right.
Did anybody address that with
That would be my question.
Southwest?
Why do we continue to use them?
Oh, yeah.
We've addressed that
Why do we
many
continue to
times.
use them if we know they're wrong? I'm sorry.
I didn't
That's
mean
what
to-
we're,
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
You know, what they're looking at is, we say we have a subdivision, okay, we have 10 acres. They'll draw lines within that 10 acres. Just so you will visually see what the acreage is. But it isn't necessarily, the lines aren't necessarily in the right place. And I've seen that on the maps that I've done.
Let me try and understand what you just said. If we have a subdivision of 10 acres and we submit them that plan and they're overlaying it on our tax map, if the tax map is showing 11 acres or 9 acres, are you saying they're not correcting the tax map to reflect the 10 acres that are shown on the updated plan?
They'll show a breakdown of what was the 10 acres. Okay?
Yeah.
So, let's say there's 6 different plots in this 10 acres or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay? Those lines aren't exactly where they're supposed to be. Okay? I was looking at the tax map, and on one of them, we had a subdivision, and the line was never put in.
I actually have that in the corrections.
If I could just
Okay,
add
so-
one thought to when you're done, right?
And, so I mean, that's some of these differences that I'm seeing,
Mm-hmm.
is that some of it is incompleteness in doing some of these things. One of the other things is like, Pratt Pond, with all its small plots,
Mm-hmm.
we did up a map just for Pratt Pond, so that we could see some detail in doing that. It's never been done for the center of town, where there are small lots. There's no acreage on any of them, on the maps. Okay, it is in the avatar because it's on the card,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not on the map. You can't go and look at the map and see what it should be.
And is that the reason because you just don't have the physical space on the map to put in what the acreage is?
On the current map, that is
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, whereas, probably some years ago, it should have been thought of, let's do the same thing with the center of town as we did, with Pratt Pond. To give some detail and see what's going on. And so I'm thinking, once we go with this mapping system, you're gonna be able just to zoom in
Mm-hmm.
on the properties and get all the detail that you want. Where today, you just don't have it, if you look at the map.
And you can overlay like all the conservation, the wetlands, the flood zones, and it'll be accurate, whereas, like my house, for example, the river, West Sauhegan actually runs on my property, like physically when I go out there. But on the map, it goes like to the neighbors next door to me and behind my property. It's like, it's way off on the tax.
Are you all done? Because I had questions, but I want to wait till you were,
One more
okay,
thought.
go ahead.
Okay. I just want to emphasize that they're gonna look at the deed, the current deeds for all the properties in town. That's what makes it a massive project, okay? The product, I just want to talk a little bit about the product we end up with and how it can benefit the public over a period of time. You will be able to go online and, look at the tax map. You'll be able to put overlays on it. You'll see where the wetlands are. You'll see, in other words, there'll be a series of overlays you can do. You can actually read the FEMA flood maps, which on paper is a real eye test to read the way they print them, because they actually show up a lot better online. You'll be able to punch right on a particular lot and get a lot of the assessing information that can be linked from the assessing system to it. So one of the things that we would be doing, and which would take some effort on our part, is to make sure that the mapping database is in sync with the assessing database. And that's a benefit, to the public, because once you have that, they'll probably wonder how they ever live without it, just like we have trouble living without iPhones or Samsung phones and things like that, but they
I don't know
use
that I put them on par, Jim.
No, but what I'm talking about are, I don't wanna say that I'm doing this for the real estate industry, but people who are selling homes, buying homes, and that sort of thing, who are either our citizens selling or people that are gonna become our citizens, can find a benefit in this. So that there is a public benefit in real time, not just, and once it's done, as Frank pointed out, it's very modest to keep it right, once we get it right. And so what we're saying is that rather than, take the thing that we take quick and you push the button that says make it balance, okay, and it enters a number in your checkbook, and then the next month you have to make it balance again. We're not gonna just start wiggling lines around, we're actually gonna make this come out right. And so, what we have for a tax map will be in sync with all these other data that you get from places like UNH, the federal government, and stuff like that we use all the time. So that's why what we're really asking is if we couldn't have an article on the warrant to do this and let us provide a better explanation so that we can have an attempt to sell it to the people. That's what we're really here for.
I'm currently in discussion with the town of Ashby, because we have a property in town that is only accessed through Ashby. And so I'm talking to them about it. This is their map by CAI of the property. You can see the wetlands, you can see the streams. You see all the dimensions of all the boundaries that are on here. I mean, talk about being useful, you know exactly what the property lines are. So this is what we're hoping to go to, and little town of Ashby already has it. But, it's just the way to go. I mean, it's more expensive, but sometimes the expense is worth it in the long run. Questions?
My question was just, I just wanted to clarify some of the costs. So if we take the 130, break it out over 3 years, so that's 43,000 some change each year. Then underneath that, we have a 5,000 for a single, that's a 1-year payment,
Right.
and that gets tacked on to year 1, or is that spread out?
The 135 would be year one, that's for building the website with the maps and the whole process of that. So the 130 would be broken out over the 3 years, the 5,000 would be on the first year.
Okay,
And then the 2,400 to maintain the maps on the website would be per year after that.
after year 3 or after year?
Year one.
So then,
Year
so
1.
starting year 2 and 3, we would have $2,400 additional
Right,
on top of the approximately 1,700
yeah,
each year, starting year 2 as well.
maintain the maps. One's to maintain the map, the other one is to maintain the website.
So year 1 would be a $48,300 charge, and then each year after that would be somewhere, year 2 and, so would be 43,
Yeah,
plus
43, 44.
plus another
Yeah.
4, and then after that, we'd be paying approximately 4,000 years 4 on,
Mhm.
okay?
I work for a much smaller, I happen to work for another town, it's a smaller town, but it's got almost as many lots, okay, because it's got a lot of water. And people love to cluster around the water. And we're already into this and have been for a number of years. works very well. As far as when the 5,000 comes in, that's when you're gonna host the website.
Right,
I mean, you might not do it in year one.
Oh,
You
yeah,
probably
that-
wouldn't do it in year one.
right, because
You
all the
probably,
data is.
you might be out in year 2 or 3 when you do that,
Right,
okay? So we have, you don't wanna host something that's incomplete,
Mm-hmm.
right.
okay? So, but yes, there's a chunk up front. And then the hard part is what people called things, map and lot numbers in the assessing system, what they called them in the mapping system. You gotta get these in sync, and there's always some that are a little wacky. But it's not hard to do, it just takes a little time and effort. But once it's in there, this thing works, it works really good, and it's not terribly expensive. I mean, $2,400 for hosting the website, and they'll be able to get assessing information off of it.
And you think the hosting of the website isn't just assessing. Remember, it's got conservation, it's got the overlay maps in it and
Mhm.
everything else, so it isn't just assessing.
It
It's,
affects planning, zoning, everything.
Yeah, so there's really three, in my mind, there's three boards that are affected by this to a large degree. The Conservation Commission is affected, and the Planning Board's affected. Maybe to a lesser degree, the ZBA gonna use the output. So, I think in the long run, I think we should give the people the opportunity to let us know if they want us to make these improvements.
My question would be this, is this the only company out there doing this, or is this the only company that, you folks have got a quote from?
It's the only one, we found that in northern New England, including Massachusetts, which isn't northern New England, okay, that does the complete job. Other companies will give you throw stuff up on the internet for you, but this company seems to be the only one that we have found, and I have looked, because of my other job, I have looked, and there was nothing else out there. And they're also, their customer satisfaction is quite high.
I was at a seminar a couple of weeks ago on exemptions and what have you. And there were 5 people from this company that were there. Okay, one was just covered the Portsmouth area, another one was central New Hampshire. They didn't say where they were all from, but there were 5 guys. A year ago, I went to the New Hampshire annual meeting, and was having dinner with someone. I was asking them about it, because we had just started talking about it. And a fellow from he was up by the Lakes region. He says, we've had them. He says, we are more than satisfied. He says, they almost anticipate your next question, because they've done it so much. The town of Antrim, I think it was part of our presentation,
Mm-hmm.
they even showed all their drainages that were in town and everything. I mean, they can put as much detail into these things as you want. And, so I mean, to have the sophistication to get into there and do all that really nitty-gritty work, it's,
And you could also overlay all the dry hydrants from, so that would be helpful in
It
some
wouldn't be, but in some towns, they'll actually put in the water and sewer systems and all the gates and valves and everything else. So, I mean, we're not at the cutting edge of some new idea. We're kind of running to catch up. Just seems cutting edge.
I'll say I understand that, okay? But I'd be hard pressed to say that the average citizen is ever gonna use this. We, as board members and committee members, we're there, we look at these things, but from the average citizen, if they're selling their house, goes to the realtor, sells it, buys it, they're not looking at this information. I think it's going to be or could be a hard sell for a warrant article. A couple of things I'd like to just put out on the floor, and could this be made instead of a 3-year, a 5-year, and where it could be part of the budget process, rather than a warrant article. And then the second thing is, because I think, as you pointed out, the real benefit of this is going to be for that real estate developer, that realtor that wants to get information, which are outside of community taxpayers in most of the cases, that we couldn't establish some type of fee structure. I don't know how we do it if it's up on the web, but I'm trying to think of how we can cover the costs by the person that really needs it for large developments and whatnot. Just thoughts that were on my
I
mind.
think part of the cost for something like that would be in the application fee.
Maybe,
Okay?
yeah,
That's just an idea.
Yep.
I will say one thing. Having been involved in some of this, you can be surprised at how many ordinary citizens get curious about things and will sit there bouncing through, you know, the online web information on properties.
mm-hmm,
It's amazing, okay? They're assessing me, right? I mean, they don't, and now they don't have to come to the office and fumble around, okay? Or, I mean, and of course, there's other ways to access that information too,
but I think when you ask them, do you wanna pay for it? It might be a different, but one of the other, again, you know, it's a number that's on a piece of paper that I'm not sure how it went, but
Ballpark.
one of the other things is during the presentation, they had also given us an alternative,
Right.
which isn't being presented here and is, where they would take it and just do a best fit scenario. And that was, I think I had down about $11,000 versus the 130. Is that not an option anymore? In your view, from being assessors or planning board?
It's taking our data and doing a best fit, it's not correcting it. See, the thing that I'm looking at, I wanna give our customers an accurate tax bill.
Mm-hmm.
And for some folks, I can't say that it is. I think that's the biggest thing where I'm from. I don't give a damn about the developers or whatever. It's, you know, we're here to serve the public, and we may find also in doing the survey, with correcting some of those acreages that may be lost that have never been taxed.
But when you look at it, Frank, and you say what that discrepancy is, and you were 400 acres difference. If
On the
you,
plus side, and also 500 on the negative.
but if you take into account the roads and town properties that aren't taxed, I'd be curious to see where that lands and how many years would it take us to pay back a portion of this cost for the investment.
When I gave you the first number about the total acreage of town and the difference.
Yeah.
Okay, that may include the roads. I would think they would, because we're looking at the size of the town.
Yeah.
The differences that I have are actual numbers off of our tax cards and the maps. Has nothing to do with roads, okay? It's physical property that I'm looking at, that there are differences on. And that bothers me, in that there's 375 properties out there
Mm-hmm.
that are not correct in my mind.
If I could go back to what you said about the $11,000, $12,000, you know, push the button, make it fit. Yeah, I think part of our thought process was, well, why would I spend $11,000 or $12,000 for a big Band-Aid? Yeah, yes, it'll make things look better, okay, and yes, we may have the same number on the tax card as we have on the map.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we don't know if the number's right, but, so anyway, I mean, there's nothing to say that if we wanted to do that, and then come back a year later and start a more in-depth process over a period of time, it's called Plan C, instead of A or B, now we got Plan C. We might spend a little more money, but we certainly could lower the annual cost. I think ultimately we want to we want to be as accurate as possible so that people get properly taxed and so their property is represented in relationship to everything else.
Mhm.
That's our goal.
Do you think the spreading it out over a longer period would,
Putting it in the budget and spreading it out over a longer period, obviously, would work. I mean, but if we're gonna spread it out,
If the company would do that, we don't know.
We don't
yeah, that's what
know.
I don't know,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
But physically, just adding money into the budget instead of doing a warrant article, that's an okay thing to do?
yeah.
Sure,
Oh, yeah.
Cause I had brought that up before, and then I heard, no, you can't do that, you gotta do a warrant article.
No, this is a type of capital investment. No question about it, that
Yeah.
it is a form of capital investment. Why don't we do this? Why don't we take a look at if we can spread it out over a longer period? And-
This gentleman, isn't he here from CDL?
No.
no,
Oh.
On the budget committee.
Oh, okay.
I'm just taking all this in.
Okay, I thought they were coming tonight.
No. And why don't we look at some variations on the same theme, okay?
Sure.
We didn't want to come and say, oh, well, let's do the quick fix, and then as soon as we get that done, we'll start on the real fix. But that's still a possibility,
No,
But
I
I-
don't want that as a
Yeah,
possibility.
yeah. I think if you, the way you explained it that way there, I'm thinking it'd be a more costly way of
it's a
doing it.
more costly way
Yeah,
of doing it,
yeah.
and we don't want to do it the most costly way.
Yeah.
The thing that bothered me when they showed the overlay up against the map, and they took our map, and the boundary lines from one map was on the property of somebody else's property,
Mhm.
you know, and it's happened, and that's still gonna look somewhat like that if you want the cheap way,
Mhm.
you know?
I thought they had said in the presentation when they did the overlay, and for some reason, I don't know why I'm picturing it, was an overlay at Benny Hill Road. And they said, well, see the way this is, and it showed the lines, and well, you see the stone wall is actually here, so we would just kinda match it to the stone line if that's what the property line is. But overall, they can't do that for every piece of property and know what the acreage is.
Yeah.
The other concern that I would have, and we've gotta move along, is the person that thinks their land is here, and now you're telling them, no, it's here, is the,
Yeah.
In the last year, we've had 2 property owners come to us and say, hey, tax map says I have this much property, but my card says I have this much property. How are you gonna fix it? Well, of course, we say to them, you have to get a
So,
survey.
well, do they need a survey, or could they just have
They
a,
have to get a survey.
an engineer read their deed and do the calculations based on the deed?
No, they'd have to do
Okay.
a survey. They would. And so we've kind of battled one of them. One has said, okay, I'll have to figure that out. And one has
Yeah.
said, no, absolutely not, I'm not doing that, this is your problem.
I think the problem with the engineer reading the deed would be, unless you go out and find those pins, stone walls, trees, the big rock with the X
Yeah,
chiseled into
okay.
it, okay?
Next to Mr.
Yeah,
Smith's
you
barn,
might as well, okay? Yeah.
okay.
Chris,
Uh,
thank you very much.
Are there any questions from the public?
I do. I'm chairman of the planning board, Bert Hamel, and I did a little bit of research before coming in tonight, and I think, Dave, you danced around the issue, but the bottom line is that the assessor's office has not presented a cost-benefit analysis yet, and that's really the true issue. And it is reasonably simple to do. I'll offer you gentlemen this, because this tells you exactly how to do it.
I'm on the board too.
Yep, I'll give you this one then, if you'd like.
You have one for them?
Yeah, I only printed out a couple copies.
That's okay, keep it.
But anyway, we really do need, if we're talking $130,000 expenditure plus whatever annual fees, we really do need to do a cost-benefit analysis. It may not be worth it for the town. You know, I know there's some tangible benefits to this, there's also some intangible benefits to the public. The other thing that has not been presented tonight, a couple other things, You can buy the basic package of this software for under $1,000. For a few $1,000s more, you can buy the whole ball of wax and put it on a PC that's available to the public, put it on your server, whatever, so it'd be available to the public and maintain it in-house, and you don't need that outside firm to do it, you can do it internally. And these software packages are simple enough that a high school kid could actually put them in. The numbers and the,
Go
yeah,
through every deed.
you have to go through every deed, the 1,800 properties or so, I think. But you have to go through them, you have to put it in, but it beats paying 40 or 50 bucks an hour for somebody else to do it, versus, you know, do it in-house for somebody punching it in at $15 or $17 an hour. The other thing is that there's at least 15 other packages out there, software that are competing software, some are good, some are bad, some are so-so. We really should look at different options of the packages. Again, we need an analysis of the various options we have, whether to do it in-house, go for the $130,000, take a look at the software that's available, ease of use, and talk to other towns. I mean, I use GIS systems 5 times a day, literally. I mean, that's what I do for a living, as an engineer land surveyor. The packages are out there with dozens and dozens of towns everywhere. New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Vermont, Connecticut, Rhode Island, you name it. And we should be talking to these people, do you like your package? Not just 1, 2, 3, 4. We should poll 10 or 15 assessors' offices and say, how do you like your GIS package? And what are you using? And are you maintaining it in-house with a permanent GIS person, or are you outsourcing it? So I don't think that we've really done all the necessary homework here. And I think I've had my say.
No,
Thank you.
I appreciate these suggestions. One thing, I guess to survey who's using what, I could contact the New Hampshire Municipal Association and get some information from them.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a pretty good survey.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, we're gonna move along and
Thank you.
start doing
Thank
budget.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Why are you leaving?
Here comes the exciting part.
Talking money.
So this is an updated treasurer's report.
That the one I have? Just latest and greatest?
You should have.
Did Dan get one?
Yeah, that's the one I have.
Yeah, that's the one I have.
Brian won't make it, that's the phone call that I got there.
Alright.
So rudely interrupted all this. Hi.
Hi.
Good evening.
Hi,
Miss Lashwell, how are you?
I'm fine, how are you?
Terrific. So this matches what you gave to me already, right? That's the one that you gave me. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Can you go through your budget?
Not a lot to go through, but,
Well, I see numbers going up, so that's why,
well, I'd like to see myself and my deputy be paid for experience, not just quick workload, as some people would think.
but we have lots of departments right now that would like to do that. So
Yeah, I understand that,
I think okay, keep going.
okay. Yeah, I've requested that myself and my deputy be increased in salary based on
between the two of us, we have over 45 years combined experience in the accounting. And I feel definitely with my deputy that she should be comparable to others in the office, which are at $15 an hour. She currently is at $12 an hour.
Who's your deputy, Nancy?
Colleen Woodrow.
You said
Where's
she
the,
did-
yeah, where's the breakdown, Nancy, of the, current rate? Do we have that on here?
They'd fall under the 2017 actual.
So what was,
Again, Nancy, I apologize, you said
That's
your,
okay.
your hourly rate is
Well,
currently?
I'm salary at $12,000 a year.
Okay,
She's hourly at $12 an hour.
okay.
So the increase for her would be from 7,500, approximately 7,500 to approximately 9,360. And mine would be from 12,000 to 14,000.
Okay, I'm looking at the actual for 2017. Why the big difference at budget at 12 and we only paid out 87.69? Is that,
we got the rest of the year to go.
Got 3
Yeah.
more months.
Yeah.
Yeah,
good point.
and no, I'm paid $12,000 a year, I'm paid weekly.
How many hours you work
Between 12 and 16.
a week?
And what does, how many hours does deputy work?
She's been averaging between 10 and 13.
And what is it that the deputy does that you're not able to handle?
A lot of the reconciling to the general ledger and also to tax collector and town clerk reports. Reconciling to the general ledger is on all the accounts, along with reconciling to the bank.
Do you,
And she's the one that reconciles the bank accounts, or you do?
We both do.
can I just ask one more question? Do you, your estimate on your hours, 12 to 16 hours a week, do you actually punch a time clock?
I don't.
So it's just, you feel that you're here 12 to 16 hours a week, but there's no record to show that?
Correct.
Okay. And also with the deputy, no record to show like a time
Yeah,
clock?
She does a time card that I sign each week.
$50 weeks a year, Nancy? You take
52.
50?
Well, 51. We usually take a week off.
Yeah, I did that math, I think it was 632 hours. I did it scratching it out on paper, I don't know, you got a machine there to do it.
I'm looking at approximate hourly rate, and
Hmm?
I'm
Yeah.
working it for what the hourly rate
Correct.
backs into.
Right, so,
That's what I'm,
so Nancy's currently at $14.70 an hour. If you go to,
Well, it depends on what you're putting in. I put in the average at 14,
okay. Well, I
and
worked
it
it,
was just under 17.
okay, yeah. I put in her high at 16,
Yeah.
just to,
currently 17, right?
What's that, Jay?
yeah, so if you put 14 hours in, yeah. So, $180.
Yeah.
And how many hours a week does Carleen work?
12, 10 to 12.
Yeah, 10 to 12.
Oh, you just stated to me 10 to 13 a week.
Well, 10 to 13, I mean,
Well,
give or
it's-
take, yeah. And her, no, this would be her salary for the treasurer. Her cleaning wouldn't show up on this one, right, Joanne? Her hours for cleaning doesn't show
No,
up on this one.
no.
No, right.
Is Carleen also 51 weeks a year?
Yes.
I'm relying on you, you're adding a sheet
Mhm.
over there. Calculator.
I think as far as the, any adjustments in the salary, we should look at that more closely. I know myself, I typically rely on the wage and salary that the New Hampshire Municipal Association pulls out from all the other communities comparable in size to see where we are in comparison to those.
Those aren't all accurate. Some of the town clerks reconcile their own. If you're looking at the treasurer's budgets in some of those,
Mhm.
not all of them, but
Yep,
some of them.
yep.
Their workload is not comparable to what our workload is. They don't reconcile everything within all the accounts within the town. They have some departments reconcile their own accounts,
Mhm.
so that makes a difference.
But it's probably the best information I have available to look at. And it's an average of maybe 10 to 30 towns
Okay.
from, because we fall, I think on their bracket, they go up to 5,000, because they break it by size of the town population-wise, and we're like 5,100, so we're just over. So sometimes I'm looking at from 3 to 5 and 5 to 8 or 9, whatever it may be, so. Education, you've got on here, 200 where we haven't spent it this year.
Right, it was taken out because Beverly had not used it for 2 years. And
Okay.
that was due to her health or anything she was interested for the two of us to attend
Mhm.
was over the amount that was in the budget. And she didn't feel it was necessary for either one of us to, split the difference.
But do you have something right now to say, this is what we're gonna go to?
I don't, but I have seen some single-day
Mhm.
classes that we'd be interested in going.
Okay. That's kind of what we're trying to look at for the backup, is even if you can just give us, a couple of classes and that'd be great.
Yeah. Neither one of us are interested in going in to any of the overnight seminars or
Yeah.
conferences that they have.
Okay. I think the rest of it is pretty straightforward. Any questions?
No, not at this point.
Dan,
No,
any
all
questions?
set.
All set? Do you wanna look at salaries at a later date as a whole, or how do you, okay, okay.
I was
All
gonna
set?
suggest that to Dan as well, you can go online to that New Hampshire Municipal Association. You been there?
Very,
Oh, okay. Good,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
cemetery. And that's next on the list.
No backup.
John has it. I mean,
Have all the monuments been repaired, Ollie?
Excuse
Oh,
me.
I asked because I don't see anything in the budget line. Thank you.
Thank you.
You refer to the general fund here in the monument repair. Is that the perpetual line you're talking?
The, general, just the general funds that have been generated from the trust funds, not the perpetual care. But the income from basically the maintenance fund that comes from, the Smithville Cemetery and the Center Cemetery.
So you've been able to get access to those monies?
Yes, so I had a meeting with the trustees of the trust funds, and they said basically they're sick of looking at all the money we have, and they'd love us to spend it. And so I said, well, you know what, maybe we'll completely just take it out of our budget that we, submit to you all, and we will just, take it out of the trust funds money instead. So I said, well, for this year, anyway, let's just zero it out with you all. I mean, I don't know if it's a separate account or if it's all the same, but whatever. We'll just request it from them.
We had,
have,
that's actually something came up in the budget talks 2 years ago, of those trust funds sitting there unused and why we weren't using them.
right, well, I didn't have all the information.
No, I
so-
understand that, I think this
No, I
is
do,
great that
so-
we've finally gotten into it, because I
Why
said
not?
this was something we've talked about for a few years, that this money's sitting there
Yeah,
revolving and we're not doing anything
Yeah.
with it.
and it's
which
not
is-
compounding, we ask
Right.
for $1,000 every year, and the next year we have another 1,000, but it's not 2, 3, 4, 5, it's just the same, amount.
I'm kinda, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but Ollie and I went, for years, we fought to get money out of those accounts, and now if they're telling you to spend them, that's 180 degrees, which I'm fine with.
Negative for quite some
You know,
time.
Right, yeah,
Jay, your name came up.
yeah.
I said, when I started, these were the conversations I had with Jay, and they said, it's changed. I don't know when it exactly changed, but they said, when they took over and it was someone else's, whatever.
Yeah.
and they-
No,
whatever. So now they have,
That's great
this,
news.
Bearing Point Wealth Partners, whatever is the little sheet they gave me, and they said, they have it all in a spreadsheet, and they can look at it exactly and up to date, and every
Mhm.
month they get a new list of how much is available based on what's earned and whatever, and I said, great. So now we know every month how much money we have, how much we can spend.
Fantastic.
Can I ask a question? Are you only spending interest accrued on the account?
Yes. Only
You're
the
not going
income,
into principal?
Not the principal.
Okay.
That's
believe
on
they can.
existing, the cemetery maintenance trust fund, that's money that is a holding place for all income that we get from the cemeteries and lot sales and burial fees.
Mhm.
So we can now spend all that.
Right, there's a different fund for perpetual care, so there's perpetual care and there's maintenance, so perpetual care comes from all of the monies that were put into the accounts when they were created, and that's not anything that we're willing to touch unless a specific monument needs repair, and then we can go to that specific account and say how much is available, can we spend that? If not, we'll go a different route. But as far as maintenance goes, you know, if we need money for mowing, or if we need anything else for a fence repair or something like that, then we can pull from the general fund and we know exactly how much we have.
But you're pulling, instead of calling it a general fund, because our budget is the general fund, so I just want to stay focused on a maintenance fund.
Right.
Is your intent to just use the accrued interest, or is your intent to also use principal from that? I know Ollie just said that you're allowed to use principal. I'm just asking, what's the intent?
The intent is just to use the income, so the accrued
Principal,
interest, not the principal,
Excuse, yeah.
just the income that
Yeah.
comes from that. So right now, we have about $2,600 that we can use for whatever. And I mean, we've been sitting on basically $3,000 or $4,000 every single year that we haven't even used. So if we do need, and I've only been keeping that money on our budget just for emergency purposes, if a tree falls or whatever,
Mhm.
and we haven't really used it. So I figured whatever, we could zero
So what is the
out if we
maintenance fund
need it.
at now?
The ending balance of our income right now is at $28,426.38.
And they're generating,
That's the ending balance.
is that the perpetual fund, or is that the maintenance fund?
That's the maintenance fund.
No, that's perpetual.
Nope, maintenance fund. Just from the two cemeteries, 28,000.
And on that, approximately, what are you figuring that they're getting on an annual interest that you,
That's the ending balance. It says the income per year is about $2,600.
Okay.
So that's,
What's this one?
that one is our ending balance as far as the principal is concerned. We have $95,000. So that's in our principal maintenance fund. We have $95,000. So they said we could use that for, you know, other things that don't concern necessarily our annual budget. That's for things that maybe long-term, if we needed to purchase more land or drain a certain area or whatever.
what I'm looking at is you've deleted approximately 3,500 in budgeted items with the intent of using the maintenance fund, but if you're only generating 2,600,
We haven't used it in years at all.
oh, so you've got,
So,
okay.
yeah. And I was only keeping it in there for emergency purposes, especially tree removal. We haven't done anything with the trees for years. And I was only keeping that in there because if something needed to be removed, we could
Mhm.
have that.
Yeah.
We basically have an emergency fund already
Okay.
ourselves in our own trust. So we don't necessarily need to ask any, the town for anything.
Okay. What I don't,
So we can't use,
No,
that's our income this year.
that's just the added into the principal.
two things. One is the mowing. There's a note on the side, assuming we keep the same mowing vendor, this line can go down based on 2017 actual usage.
Yeah, and this was before I spoke to Ollie, so that was, I believe there's a date at the beginning, at the top of that sheet. We were at, what, 6,225?
Yeah,
It says we might possibly have one more mowing coming.
yeah.
If not, it'll go into our cleanup.
But we
That's
also
all we spent.
fell short on the mowing at the beginning of the season.
We were like between vendors, that was the situation.
Right. So I just want to make
But-
sure
Yeah,
we have enough money, because this happened now 2 years in a row,
yeah,
that we don't have it happen again.
Well,
Right.
because the guy who got the bid quit.
yeah.
I can understand,
We had
but I
some-
want to
we had
make
some
sure
money.
you've got the budget to hire a reputable company that when you need them there, they're there.
Yeah.
That's
And
all I'm,
Who are we using now? We're using
And a Broski,
the same guy who does the
Who-
rest
Okay.
of the town.
who said that he's gonna be going up. in-
Who is the current vendor?
Anna Proscapes out of Brookline.
so will this number cover, I think, wasn't it 10 mowings you used to budget?
Yeah, way back,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's been dry, so we've been, you know, budgeting low. And then
Okay,
also saying that we can pull 1,000 out of our emergency budget, which would be from our trust funds,
okay.
if we need it.
So
And
you're
this
comfortable
year,
with
We
this?
don't need it.
That we're not gonna, because the board is the one that always hears,
Right, and that's
The
what I was
issues,
gonna
and I
say as
don't
well,
want
Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I understand,
not being on the board, I heard people complaining about the mowings for the last 2 years, so
right.
I don't wanna hear any more complaints about the mowing, 'cause,
Me,
We're on a 3-week cycle.
see, I don't think 3 weeks is often enough.
well, I was just walking through there today and a couple days ago, it looks good. I mean, I personally, it probably is okay until we do clean up. And I tried to keep track at the beginning of the year, especially after hearing complaints and things, just, online. Trying to keep, look every 3 weeks, make sure. And if it's looking dry, or high, I go check on it a couple days later, it's been cut. So I've been doing as much as I possibly can, but yeah,
I
I can't go out there, I don't even own a mower, so.
no, and I understand that, but
Yeah.
if they were on a 2-week cycle, then you know it's getting mowed every 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks seems like a lot, and I mean, if you look at the cemeteries and then you look at like your own personal lawn, there's a huge difference. It's a little drier in the cemeteries, I don't know,
Okay,
they
no,
grow a
it's
little
like,
longer than maybe
like
what
David said, if
normal people are used to.
you're comfortable with it.
I think so, are you, Ollie? No.
Yeah,
Well, I
think
guess
so.
my question is this also, and
Right.
I mean, I've been through our cemeteries,
Yes,
but I've been to a lot of other cemeteries,
yeah,
and ours just is not up to par.
Correct.
It just isn't.
you think it's long, or what's not?
In general, I
In
think.
general, just
Yeah.
you look at the condition of it, just the
Yeah.
general condition, everything is up and down, it's,
But I mean, it's been there for like 300 years, so I think it's.
I understand that, but is there any plan, is that adequate to you, or should we be
As far as
trying
the-
to?
The grass, the lawns,
Just the general condition of the cemeteries. You have depressions where people have been there for 300 years.
yes.
Is there any intention of filling that in with loam and seeding it? It's, now that you have this newfound wealth,
I think, yeah, I think there's other priorities, really. I mean, I think the grounds look great. As far as maintenance goes, I think, yes, we need a laborer, which we've now hired. We haven't had one for all of this year. So we do have a couple of laborers, right? As far as weeding and things go, but like the grounds, I mean, there's not really a lot you can do. It's very inconsistent. There's a lot of moss, there's a lot of dry space.
no,
there's a lot of-
I get that.
You're very
But
aware.
I am very familiar with it, that's why I
Yeah.
feel comfortable in discussing it, because
Yeah.
there's also a lot of stuff that should be cut back, that hasn't been cut back. Is there
Oh,
intention?
yeah.
Cut back to the stone walls.
Yeah,
Thank you.
but
That
I mean,
need-
that's not included in mowing at all. I think that's more of a labor issue. That's more of an individual, like a project on its own. I don't think that is
And that's
included
coming
in
out of,
mowing.
and that's coming out of your newfound wealth, correct?
Right.
How about the center
That
of,
would come out of our labor, I think.
how about the center of Center Cemetery? I know where David's going with it, and I'm talking, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
keep running.
The center of Center Cemetery,
Yes.
where it needs to be cut back
Yes.
and drained,
Under
basically.
drainage.
Yes, that is in our long-term plan that we talked about
We-
with the,
We had,
We
We're-
tried this
we're
10 years
long
ago.
time
10
ago.
years ago, David, you and I and Ollie, and
It's
that was
on
when
the
the
agenda.
trustees, wouldn't give us any money, so.
Yeah.
there's so much water coming out of that hill, you could set it up so you could have a fountain at the bottom.
You could.
David?
Yeah. But that's a long-term goal. That's not anything that we're
I
concerned
wonder
with.
if there's
right away.
money in the budget to put that sign back up in Smithville, that white sign that's been laying on the ground for a year.
Yes.
I don't know what it would cost, maybe
What
$100.
it needs is, metal posts instead of,
Oh, okay.
Is that on the list,
There's
Rick?
nothing in the budget to get that back up.
Yeah.
And
That
can,
looks like
and
not
while,
very good.
while David's on that subject, how about the fence over there as well? It's kinda wavy and missing, rails and everything else.
In Smithville?
Yes, I landed up before the Memorial Day, going down there to move the granite posts and the rails out of sight, to make it look a little,
Yeah.
I tried to move that
Well, I think
sign, but it was way too heavy.
The posts are gone. I mean, the granite posts are
Too
still
heavy,
there,
oh.
but the wooden pieces, I think,
I
have
think
been
they're
removed
talking
at that
about
point.
the one in the, section close.
The Moral Annex.
Moral Annex, that fence is slowly falling apart and starting to look,
Oh, I thought you were talking about the upper end.
No, this was at the
Which
Moral
had any-
Annex.
any, problems.
Down back by, there's like a picnic table and stuff back there.
No, right out on the
yes,
road.
in that general area, yes, but the fence on the road.
That's on the road. I mean, assuming, again, from a personal standpoint, I thought that those pieces had been removed so that a tractor or something could get in as far as burials and stuff.
Banged
like that.
into it and,
Oh,
somebody-
okay.
took the post out.
Yeah.
That's what 3 of them have been snapped.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but that
when
would
they-
be, again, something that we could easily, ask
When-
for the trustees as a,
When they were plowing, I think
individualized
those were
project.
broken, we haven't plowed for a while, so,
Yeah, would and.
I understand,
No,
I guess.
we had one fellow that, he lost control of his trailer. Had a mower on the trailer, and came off, I guess, and it hit the, one of the middle ones.
Did he pay to repair it?
Huh?
Did he pay to repair it?
He disappeared.
But you know who did it?
Huh?
But you know who did it?
I, through the grapevine thing, I know, but.
Well, we should get it fixed, because again, David's point, I mean, stuff needs to look a little better than it does.
Yeah.
So.
Agreed.
So you're comfortable with your budget?
Once we can get the trustees of trust fund
Yes.
to be,
Hold them accountable.
quick,
That's our
quick
only,
on the checks.
yeah,
I
that's the
mean,
only
that
thing that
time when
we're
we
nervous
submitted,
about, but yeah.
I think it was months. We didn't, I don't think we remembered what the check was when we did get it, what was it for?
I think it was 3 years and we got a rejection letter, but anyway.
But
Oh.
that's what I was told, and I met with them a couple days ago, actually.
Yeah.
Well, if
And-
you guys are
Right.
comfortable with your budget, I'll make a motion that we accept the cemetery budget at $17,709.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Aye.
you.
Thank you. You're not going too far, are you, Ollie?
No, I'm just gonna make copies.
All right.
We have copies, I think.
He didn't submit anything, so you have a.
All zeros. He's gonna fly by.
Yeah, right the book, yeah. Yeah. All zeros, I was looking at this actual, geez, I gotta pay attention to, I've seen that else, apparently.
Thought you were gonna say something. What time was Meredith coming in?
I told her to be here around 7:30. I was trying to remember last week, trying to see if I could.
Oh, we're ahead of schedule right now.
Yeah. She has a meeting, so it's better for her. I think
Later.
she'll be here by 7:30. We have lots of other things to do.
Yes.
Apologize for this, just
Thank you.
in handwritten form. But, the last month, I've had problems with my Comcast. They changed my software and I can't do certain functions like search and I called to complain. I said, well, it's free, so we can't be earning it. So how can it be free?
Yeah.
Paying about $200 a month for the service. Anyway, for next year, I'd like to get 2 flagpoles for the center cemetery. That's why I'm using an estimate that I had earlier in the year. I tried to recently get information from the flagpole guys and Fitzwilliam, but we seem to be playing phone tag. But anyways, I wanted to see if this also includes installation, because I can't imagine trying to install one of these flagpoles.
You mean by yourself, or?
No, I don't know if the town has any equipment that you'd have to have a crane or something to.
No.
No, there should be a pivot point ollie at the base.
I thought these things go right into the ground, 3 feet down.
They do, but you put a sleeve in first. You put concrete around that.
Yeah,
Then you put the pole in there and lift the pole up, and then they fill it with sand to level it out. Something like a backhoe or a front end loader, or something like that would be more than
how do
adequate.
if you have a landed problem? You don't take it down?
Yeah, if you wanna take the pole out, you could.
Most of them that
Yeah.
I see, well, maybe that's old school, I guess, but there's a pivot point at the bottom, you have 2 bolts. And you pull the bottom bolt, and you just lay the pole down.
Oh, that's different, yeah. Most poles you'll see now that
The
you
new
buy,
ones
yeah,
are-
there's a sleeve and it's got a
Yeah,
ground
I
rod
don't
on the
quite
bottom of it.
understand,
That goes
they-
right in the ground,
they-
and
they
you
show
pour
nothing
concrete
about
around
pivot
it.
points.
And then you put your pole in the sleeve,
Yeah,
and you fill it with sand, and that allows you to plumb
Plumb
your
it up.
pole up, yeah.
so you just pull it out of the sleeve. No?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But Ollie, my question, because I was wondering, you had asked last year about buying a pole.
Right,
Did that not ever happen? Because you
Not
had
yet.
the money?
I have 3,100.
I thought you were trying to buy it out of the 2016 budget last year.
No.
Okay,
I didn't have it in my last year's budget.
okay.
Uh,
I thought it was, and that's
So
why I
we,
was,
so we had, you planning on purchasing one before the end of this year?
Yes,
Okay.
and
What-
I might have 2.
I'm gonna say, where's that one going?
Smith.
So you're gonna put 1 in Smithfield this year and 2 in Center next year?
I have some information I might be having some help with second pole.
But no, I just wanna clarify, you're gonna put a pole in Smithfield this year.
Right, because it's based on what I know right now, I don't think I'm gonna, my hopes is that the information I got was true, that I'm gonna be getting a second pole.
Okay.
but out of the poles that we have, is Smithville, I thought the one that you were talking about last year was for Bank Village. I thought that was the one that you told me was in disrepair. Yeah, Joy Lane and Old Country Road.
I don't even know what the pole looks like over there.
Okay.
No, I was talking about Smithville.
David?
I wonder what size pole are you looking for? I know somebody that has a 23-foot, probably 4-inch pole, metal pole that was a mast on a sailboat. It's got pulleys and he wants to give it away. 23 feet tall, probably 4-inch.
Maybe the town would like to put that in Bank Village.
Well, what, we can go get it tomorrow if you want, Ollie.
That's the one I got in my yard, I think. It's a,
Maybe.
I'm looking at a 35-footer.
Oh, okay, but if you can use that 23-footer, I can get it. The guy wants to give it away.
and that's
I'll
got the
get
two
it anyway.
bolts on it.
That common in Bank Village, I've always known
Let
the
me get it
residents to
anyway.
maintain that. Even when I worked for the town, we didn't change out flags down there or
No.
anything, they took care of that, they painted the pole, so, I was a little surprised that would've been something Ollie would take care of, but.
Well, the one in, Smith Village, I thought, for Memorial Day, seeing it, I thought that was in good shape, the pole.
They're pipes.
Yeah, Smithfield Common he's talking, right, is that the one
Yeah,
you're talking?
yeah, yeah.
That's the one, Toco takes care of, right? Right across from your house.
I'm talking about the cemetery.
I know, I understand that's where you are.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was at the wrong spot. When you said Smith Village, I was thinking the one
In the
at the
village.
memorial, in the village.
Oh, no, that's the Leo Tocco Memorial.
Right,
Pole.
yeah.
That was
Okay.
bought by the Tocco family.
Okay.
That's what I said, I guess they haven't driven enough down Bank Village.
I know.
See this pole, because I don't recall ever seeing one. I've only been here 4 years, so.
So,
you're thinking-
But like all of us, we don't drive around the whole town.
So you were thinking the Smithville, Center?
Yes,
that little common area.
yes,
No,
yeah.
that's a beautiful pole.
That's,
Yeah,
I thought.
yeah.
Yeah.
so Ollie, how many quotes did it, actually, people quoted this flagpole? One,
Yeah,
so you don't go out and get multiple quotes?
well, I got it from the US, the flag, and they wanted 2650, but, I haven't, what's it say, the recommendation was this people in Fitzwilliam have an excellent product. And, because the 2600, I mean, if you get certain things, the thing will go up to, $4,000. Internal lanyard systems and things like that, and,
and they deliver that pole, and they don't install it, and I was hoping to have somebody, and it comes out from,
So that cost of the pole is actually gonna increase, cause you're gonna need someone from the town, as a town employee with a backhoe to bring it up, so the
No.
cost is actually gonna increase.
What I,
well, I was thinking that 31 includes installation, that's why I wanted to confirm with them.
yeah, and I think you're close, and if you can find out what the cost would be to purchase and deliver the pole under our DPW employees, they could install it.
Yeah, cause that cost could go down
Yeah,
drastically.
yeah, I'm thinking,
That's a lot of
I think I
money for one
gave
pole.
you comparable price from someone else, but if you're in the
Right.
high two range is what the cost was, I think, was for purchasing and delivering poles.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
But like you're saying, if you're at 31 and
Yeah.
thinking it was installed, I think
that's
you're,
why I wanted to confirm
Yep,
with them, and then, check my other sources, see if they were still willing to, move ahead and would have two installed at the same time, that would save money too.
Mhm.
what do you mean by that? Someone's donating a pole, you're
Well,
thinking?
that's,
But then that would be 4 poles, because you're saying you're gonna buy one this year, you're budgeting for 2 and a potential donation.
well, then I would look at the following year to do the Soldiers Monument. I thought we should have, after all these years, new, flagpoles. I mean, I've been in town for 40 years, and
But where would you, just tell me where you'd put them. Smith Village Cemetery,
that's 2.
oh, 2 there, okay,
Center, 2, because there's 2 there.
okay,
The state and the, you know, the national flag.
yes, yep, yep,
And then Soldiers Monument only has, the, national,
okay.
that's one. Again, we were just talking about making your cemeteries look better, I think they look better with, nice flagpoles.
I feel like I just went through a session of who's on first, because we're talking about 3 flagpoles, 1 in Smithville, 2 in the center.
No, there's nothing in the center, I mean, in Smithville, that's nothing wrong with that pole. I never brought up Smithville Center.
Okay.
But you, what you just said, just for clarity, 2 new poles at Smith Village Cemetery, 2 new poles at Center Cemetery.
I got all that, but
All
prior
right.
to that, there was conversation, I don't know, maybe I didn't.
I think I
misheard.
confused it when he was saying Smith Village, I was taking it as at the monument, and he was referring to the cemetery.
Yeah, I should have said south, but when I say south, people says, where's that?
Yeah.
Oh,
So you're looking for $6,200 this budget for 2 flagpoles, plus the 1,800, that's $8,000. So you're looking for 2 flagpoles at $3,100 apiece with this budget.
right.
Okay, I got it. Thanks.
And if my source, you know, they change their mind, or they don't want enough of a whole pole, I'll see if they contribute to next year, and then I'll ask the trustees, should we put the single pole in Soldier's Monument then? And, try to budget for 2, you know, for each cemetery. And maybe with the new information, which I guess I'm not quite, if I understand it all, because I feel the cemetery maintenance trust fund has always been totally for the trustees to use, not the income. Because that was from the sale of, cemetery lots and burial fees. It's not a perpetual care. The perpetual care trust funds, that's a different,
Mhm.
you know, animal, and, so that's why I guess I'm a little confused with it, because
As am I.
there's a general fund, and,
Yeah.
On this budget, I would just like to see some quotes on
yeah,
what the
From
pole is
other
rather
vendors,
than a,
Yeah,
can you get that to us, say within the next week, so that we can
Absolutely.
finalize this?
yeah.
Any other questions or comments, or?
thank you, Ollie.
Thank you, Ron.
Building inspector,
Yeah, he's here.
is he here?
Is this in your packet? The building inspector.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
John, I don't think you have this.
No.
Didn't send it.
Break now?
Joanne, are the, do you know if the FICA rates are staying the same in Medicare? Is that all, those numbers still good?
I do, I'll have to check with that.
Okay.
Is he here? Is he coming?
He is here, I saw him go in the office. I'm gonna go tell him.
They just use that rule for you, David.
Thank you.
Yes. Yep.
Did he give you copies of the proposed stipends for these rates that we're supposed to be talking, remember about?
I had it, unless you knew.
Yeah. She give copies? No?
Yeah, she emailed it to us.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know, you figure me out when it comes to computers.
I also had it from 2 months ago.
Right, yeah, I've got it somewhere in a pile.
All right,
How you doing?
good.
Yeah.
It's a level budget, so
Yeah.
how do you knock that out?
I can't imagine why we don't.
Good evening, Mr. Donovan.
Good evening.
Rick, how you doing?
Good, how you doing?
Good.
In reviewing your backup and the budget for 2018, it appears we're level funded. Refresh my memory, where were we from last year where to purchase the code updates if the legislature gets around to approving it?
So that was actually the end of 16, and we did that. This year, I have to get, still have to get 2015 NFPA 101 Life Safety and 2009 NFPA 1 that we don't have in this office.
But did you already purchase
Yeah, we already
the
purchased.
2015?
Yes, we did that at the
Okay.
end of 2016.
Okay. So where do you have your NFPA manuals in this budget?
No, that's, to clarify that, that's in 2017, which is, I
Oh,
still have to do
okay.
2017, which will probably, if you look at what's expended, the expenditures to this date is a little low because I haven't done those, I haven't purchased those.
Okay,
yet.
so that
Right.
general supplies will be your NFPA.
And then for 2018, I need to get some test equipment inspection for arc fault outlets and GFCIs, thermometer for the water. Right now, I'm using personal ones that I
Yeah,
have,
yeah.
they're getting kind of old, and so, but these would be belong to the town of New Ipswich, which would stay here.
Any questions?
No?
No.
Any motions? Dan?
I got a question. How many inspections were conducted in this year?
I could tell you, I've got the brand new home, single-family home, permit 18 for the year in my hand. Each new home requires a minimum of 4 inspections.
So you've done 18 inspections this year?
Oh, I've done probably that times 20.
Would it be 18 times 4 for new houses,
For
but
new
then you
houses.
do electrical, mechanical,
Yeah.
fire?
Electrical
Okay.
permits, we're somewhere around 62, I believe, in that area.
So a ballpark figure, 160 this year?
Yeah.
all combined,
anyways, at
everything?
minimum.
Okay.
We're running roughly in a week, anywhere from a dozen inspections a week.
Okay.
Well, if we go to a rough, we're doing a rough inspection. I call it out as one on a log entry, but it's actually plumbing, electrical, mechanical.
Okay, so
Then the house.
average hours worked a week, would you say? Just yourself?
8 to 10 on building, and then lately, another couple
On zoning.
Code, on zoning enforcement,
So a couple,
3 to 4.
3 to 4? Okay, that's all I got. Thank you.
I move to accept the budget submitted at $12,800 for building inspector.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That was quick and painless.
If I could have a quick second?
Yep.
Steve,
Mm-hmm.
would like you to call him from
Again?
the
Okay.
Aspenham Road.
Okay,
So,
I
call
will.
me today, so I figured I'd pass that on to you. He specifically asked to talk to you, so I'll.
Oh. Did you talk to him?
He called me, left me a message to
Oh.
contact you,
Okay,
to have you give him a call. But he said he had something to talk to you about, so.
give him a call.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that's it for budgets. Yep. You're welcome to hang around if you want.
I've got,
I have one thing on budgets,
yep,
maybe from last week, the supervisors.
yes.
Yeah, oh,
Um,
on the maintenance?
yeah, actually, I. So Dan,
For which one?
oh, yeah. I'll copy yours.
This is what you gave to him?
Who's him?
Oh, you need a copy?
Yeah,
So what, can I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
If there's a maintenance contract, exactly what is covered under a maintenance contract?
repairs,
Okay, repairs.
if it, you know, if something fails on the machine,
So,
I have the contract, I don't know. But the other, the big thing is the quoting of the machine for each election,
And that's in the repairs and maintenance line?
yeah.
Okay.
okay.
So it's 1279 is the total, what they spent, or what they spent last year.
So 2016, we've got 950, 1,073, and 680. I don't know why it differs per election, but,
It depends on the size of the ballot and what they have to code.
okay. So for 2017, I thought we were gonna have,
We've already spent that much, I'm just saying.
Oh,
what we spent
okay.
Oh, okay.
so far.
okay.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Joanne, yep.
I'm sorry. So I don't have, you know, I don't know about the other two. I
I
In
just showed you.
2017, though, didn't we have
The budget was 1574
4 elections?
for repairs and maintenance.
Yeah.
And she only had so far spent 225, so you had so it's gonna be 1275, 1280 spent out of a 1574 budget. I'm just trying to figure out
Why it's up to
4,000.
4,000?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
it's
the
20,
question I
yeah,
asked.
2016.
I asked last week, it seems like it's, maybe semi-annually, it's $4,000, and it's just,
But if you get a contract of $225 for maintenance.
Yeah, but I mean, 2016, we had 3 elections, that was only $2,500, then you had 225 to that, that's only $2,800, and she's asking 4,000, I don't understand why it's,
I think what she had explained, and I won't agree, but was she went back to the 2016 budget of 5,700. But I think based on what our actual costs have been, I think for 2017, for the 2018 budget, we should be in the 2,000 range. Because we're not gonna have as many as
right,
we
I
had
mean,
last year.
yeah, how many elections do we
Yeah.
have in 2018? We have,
Only
we'll have
2.
2, 3.
Three?
We'll have 3.
Primary election. This year.
So the numbers will be,
Okay,
some
yeah.
numbers will be the same
Yeah, but
as
it's,
16.
yeah, but it's not a, well, I don't know, it's not a presidential, so you don't have, the primary for the presidential, each ballot had, what, 20 people on it, cause you got the guy with the boot on his head and everybody else.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna be as much.
Well, this one here is adding up to roughly 2,650 roughly, plus the 2 1/4.
So
I would
I'm
say
thinking
3,000. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Jay?
Is that a motion?
Motion, I'll make a motion to move that to 3,000.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that's going to reduce that budget down to 10,725.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen.
Are you gonna see, Brian? Probably not.
Okay.
I'm just.
By my own choice?
We'll have to set up, some sort of.
Yes.
All right.
I'll let him know.
I'll find a night that works.
Were we okay with the rest of that budget? Or-
Yeah, that was the only
That was
note
the
I
question
had
we had
down.
the other night.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
do we wanna
That's what I.
move to
that's-
accept that
that's-
at 10,725?
that's why I said, bring it down to 3 and take 1,000 for the boots.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You know,
Excuse me?
I said, take the 4,000, bring it down to 3, and take 1,000, put it to the
Oh,
boots.
you did, well, we can discuss that at budget committee, but, I mean, we can present as well, Dan. You look at 'em. Okay, good to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, yeah. Have a good night.
Yeah.
Good night.
You too, thank you.
Meredith?
Dave's got his hand up again.
This-
And we accept a couple comments from the peanut gallery.
Always.
Always. Just an update, we got that old fire station pressure wash, and we have the paint, we have tons of paint that, but we just need somebody with time to paint it. Everybody in the construction is busy, so we're gonna get it painted, we have the paint already. And what's left over, we're gonna give possibly to the church next door, so maybe they could spruce that up a little.
Okay,
Yeah, and, then, remember we discussed tire fires, a couple of weeks ago, guys haven't heard of a tire fire for years. Well, there was one right by the Turnpike Auto, like a week ago Monday, and I heard there was another one on Ashburnham Road. Somebody told me there was, I'm not sure. But so, in the last couple of weeks,
so I think if you stop bringing these things up, it wouldn't happen.
ask the chief.
Do we get many?
That
We
was
had
my,
One night.
Okay.
2 in one night.
Have we had any in the recent past?
This was 2 weeks ago.
Prior
Okay.
to-
Prior to the 2 weeks ago,
We had a dry spell. We periodically go out.
once in a while, yeah. And I
Sometimes we
understand.
can
Right,
predict
but,
and
you know-
sometimes we can't. Let's put
I
it that way.
understand, and then in the
Depends on if it's
newspaper
tickets.
too, Ringe has a few also.
Yeah, Ringe had a few, couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
very recently.
So when,
Ours was the same night as the tannery.
okay, what's the,
the point is, you guys haven't heard of them, for a long time. Well, we hear of them, I see them, and, so just a point of interest. They still go on, and those have been going on for 20 years. I bet nobody knows why they do it, but
20 years.
it's a payback of some kind for something. Just a point of interest.
nothing under our control right now, Dave?
Mr. Riggs has a comment, I believe.
No, I have a question, but I'll probably after Meredith.
You might be here.
Okay.
I have a question for you,
Sure.
but can I go ahead of Meredith by asking?
Is it like a long type thing that will,
No, I hope you can answer it very briefly.
good, go.
Okay? But it might take a couple of minutes. Could you give me a timeline of the paving of Temple Road from the financial aspect and from the award for the contracting aspect?
Can you
In other words,
rephrase that
The
question?
whole Temple Road thing.
Yeah,
How was it awarded? Where'd the money come from? But the bottom, I got one follow-up. I just want to hear what you say. In 1 minute, that's all I need.
okay. If I understand the question, the paving is put out to bid based on, we give them a list of the roads we want to do with an approximate amount of tonnage. They bid on that based on a unit cost for pulverizing, for cost of the asphalt mix, and placing it. That funding comes from, this year, 2 different sources. One, the warrant article. 2 is the, I don't know if you've heard that the state legislature had a Senate bill that got approved. We got additional funding for block grant money, which is going to go towards, if you've noticed now, they've pulverized and bindered, which is what we had planned to do from the intersection of Temple Road and Greenville Road all the way out to the Greenville line. Now, when we got the additional highway block grant money, we're gonna be discussing this evening going from the intersection there out to Turnpike Road, and then top coating back as far as the money will take us. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I was wondering why there was a delay. Why wasn't, when did that block come in?
The block grant?
$200,000 that we're looking?
No, 124-ish.
Okay, that's from the
And that
state.
just came in, June, July, right in that time.
It came after the original contract was awarded.
Okay, I
Yes.
understand that.
Yeah.
But is there a chance that if you'd worked with the paving companies, that they could have finished Temple Road by now? If contracts had been signed in a.
They have finished Temple Road.
No, from Greenville Road to the center of town.
The company that we contracted with has told us they can't do it.
I know that, but if we had talked to them earlier, could they have done it? Was there a delay in talking to them about doing that?
No, no. Peter spoke to them that this was gonna be coming up when the Page Hill and whatnot was ready. They had told, matter of fact, we received a letter from them saying that because of their workload, they didn't think that they'd be able to do the additional work.
What's the chance that the Temple Road will be finished this year?
The board is gonna be discussing tonight, because when they told us that they couldn't do it, we went out to the second low bidder and asked them if they'd be able to do it. And they said, yes, they could do it. And probably if we discuss it tonight, within 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay. If for some reason it didn't happen, could that money be encumbered, or does it have to be spent this year?
It can be encumbered.
Just have to go toward paving, or could you buy a new truck with it, or?
No, we would, that warrant article and that highway block grant, the board voted on, and the voters voted on, the warrant article has to go to paving. There's no ifs, ands, or buts on that. And the block grant would go to.
Okay. Well, if you're gonna discuss it tonight, I'm gonna get out of here, so you can discuss it right away, because I'm hoping we pass it. Anyway, I'd like to see.
That's my
Yeah,
intent, Mr.
that-
Hague.
That's what we've always said we
That's-
want to do,
that's
so.
been the thoughts of the board from the beginning, as soon as we got the money, so I haven't changed
And
my.
I just hope the contracts were signed in a timely fashion. That's-
They were.
They were,
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
Sure.
You're welcome.
Okay, see you in the
Thanks
new
for
road.
coming in.
You're not leaving us, David, are you?
The chief has her way.
Good night.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Detail rates.
Yeah, I'm coming back because you had asked me to get a couple other, you had asked me to find out from other towns like Brooklyn and Mason what their
Mhm.
rates are, so. You didn't wanna make a decision until you knew what other towns were doing as well.
And I can see you're saying Brookline doesn't do details, Mason's in the process. I think for what my understanding is, state rates are that get paid out for us if they go to a fire on state land.
State wildland rates are dictated by the state, correct?
Correct.
And FEMA rates, if we had any kind of thing like a hurricane or something come through here, FEMA rates would be dictated by FEMA as well. So
And I'm
these
presuming these are far exceed those rates, from my
They
memory.
exceed the rates of wildland, correct. With regards to the state rate, so what we did was we took the state rate that a call-in volunteer person would get paid
Hmm.
through a grant to go to a class, which was $20 an hour, and we took that as the base rate and then went time and a half on that, which seems to be what pretty much everybody around here is doing. So ours fall into line with the communities that we do detail rates for. So we do details with Jaffrey and Peterborough, Dublin, all of the towns that do those detail rates with those towns are in that same range.
What are those rates?
Those rates, the $30, $33, $35, $38 that we present.
They're exactly what Jaffrey has, they're
They're not
exactly.
exact.
Well, that's why I'm asking.
Well,
is-
they're not exact because their firefighters are paid on an hourly, so they get an hourly rate wage anyway, because they're call members, so they get an hourly, so depending on their years of service, their training, just like our employees here, that may be a little higher or a little lower, but the 30 is the base rate for them.
And isn't Peterborough full-time?
Peterborough has full-time per diem.
Mm-hmm.
So they, same thing, they get paid an hourly rate for being at the station to cover shifts and everything like that. If they did a detail rate, then their rate is time and a half as well.
But I'm talking that they are,
They're not full-time,
Peterborough's not?
no, they're per diem. So they run 24-hour coverage, but they only paid, completely, totally paid person there is the chief. They
Do you
don't
have-
have any full-time firefighters.
What's the FEMA rate?
I don't know if I can pull it up here or not.
And the state rate is what, 20?
The state rate for classes, so there is really no determining factor for a call person's hourly rate. So what we did was we took, like for instance, if a guy goes to the goes to the fire academy to
Mhm.
take a class, and he's considered a call or a volunteer
Mhm.
firefighter with no hourly rate attached to his position, then to sit in that seat would be $20 an hour. Now, if we paid our guys, say we decided we don't wanna do stipends anymore, and we paid our guys an hourly rate of 12, 15, whatever, then those people going to that same class would only get that $12 or $13, $15 an hour. So because there is no hourly rate attached to their position, that's why they get the $20.
But Meredith,
And then we
if
treated
you,
it as a time and a half position, that it's an extra above what they would normally do. And then we went with comparable to what the other towns are billing Jaffrey Fireworks for. And I guess I'm not exactly sure what the issue is. None of this would affect any of the community events that we do. The community events that we do, whether it was covering for the race the other day, or fire prevention, or, Oktoberfest, any of those, covering ball games, parades for the soccer team when they win, those are all, we consider those already being paid by the taxpayers. And that's our community service to the taxpayers. This is above and beyond, and it's letting us work with details in other towns. And likewise, when other towns are coming here, if we had anything that would be billable, like an extended event, like a propane, like when we had the propane rollover, we submitted a bill, Jaffrey submitted these rates to us, and that's what we paid them. So we're not looking, and I wanted it specific, and I think it says on the bottom of that, that this does not affect community events, because we are not looking to start charging for anything in the community.
So-
That is a service that we provide.
So these detail rates are, so if you guys get called to Jaffrey,
If we get asked to go to
Okay,
Jaffrey's
so-
fireworks.
alright, so you get asked to go to Jaffrey's
Yeah.
fireworks.
If we get asked to go to Jaffrey on a cover
Right.
truck, that's our mutual aid agreement.
Right, no, I get
There's
that, no,
money
I'm
in it.
saying, like, so I'm assuming, like, that, cause that's not a detail, that's an emergency
That's our
recovery.
mutual aid agreement.
Right, so, but we as a town are reimbursed by Jaffrey for,
Correct, the exact amount that we submit, so.
so you pay somebody this, we get reimbursed
Yes.
this. Does that also include any, tax and benefits on top of this, or are tax and benefits not included in a detail?
That's part of the complication, I think, that Wendy and Roger are trying to work out, because we tried to get that information and there was some confusion. We need to sort that out. So we either need to, and I don't know how we could do it, if that's what we decide we're gonna do, the $35, $30, $33, either reduce it so that's what the total outlay is, including the employer's portion of FICA and everything, or do we raise those rates to make that so that the guys are truly getting 30 and 32?
Right, yeah,
That was a miscommunication between,
Right.
and
'Cause I mean,
we
'cause
tried to
that's-
sort that
yeah,
out.
right, and that's why I'm asking,
Right now,
because,
that money for this year, for this detail for Jaffrey, is gonna come out of that truck rate. Because we billed for the truck, we billed $150 an hour for the truck, which is the going rate under FEMA. Because what we did was we looked at the FEMA rate for the truck that we were sending them, it's $150 an hour, that's what they're gonna pay us. So this is only going out whatever we're billing.
my view on these rates is you're saying, well, it's nothing the town's absorbing. But I hear that all the time because I'm on the other side of the table many times where I'm paying the bill. And I say, this isn't what a normal person's wage rate is. Why are we
But it's
exploding it because we can? And that is what let me finish. I waited a long time for you, okay? That is what I think is unfair. When I look at even the police detail rates, and I'm saying, these are unfair. It's what we put in there though. And if we're looking at what a police officer here in town is making as a wage rate, not on a detail, just as a wage rate, it's nowhere near here. And I don't think that we should be starting to set a precedent of putting an inflated rate because another town does and can. That we need to focus on, we've gone 250 years without this. Now we want to add something in there to benefit another community if they need the service. But I think we got to stay focused and say, what should be a fair wage? We need to look at what the town costs are FICA, Medi, et cetera, and include that. We should have rates for what the equipment is gonna be, so
I
that,
gave it to you. There's a link to the FEMA rates.
okay, I didn't go by links, I looked black and
Well,
white.
I can't give you, there's
But
pages and pages.
we
of
should
it.
be able to take our equipment and say, here's the list of our equipment, and this is what we would propose to build a community for. And that should be the baseline, and then with an administration fee, because Roger's gonna have time into it, the town treasurer's gonna have time into it, so a fee needs to be assessed on that, but I'm,
And I think that those are reasonable rates. Looking at, I mean, straight across the board, if I go out in Oregon, that's a time and a half rate, that's a reasonable rate. That's where you see, I didn't inflate it, I didn't say, hey, they want us to come, let's charge them $100 because we know they'll pay it. We tried to be reasonable based on everybody else that's participating in those events, and we feel like that's a reasonable rate.
but the volunteers are not working overtime. They're volunteering to go and be at that, so it's not a time and a half rate.
All right, let me flip the coin on you then and say, okay, so they're here in town and they're doing a community event. They're doing that for points, which basically works out to about 50 cents an hour. That's not fair either. So we're trying to balance this for these guys, the community service that they do in town and the details that they do in town. Yeah, we should be doing that for just because we volunteered to do this for the community. But when we have the opportunity to go to other events in other towns where this is what other towns are charging, we should be able to have our guys get that same amount. Sitting 2 years ago, sitting in Jaffrey, which was the first time we had gone to Jaffrey, the people sitting at the same table doing exactly the same thing were making twice as much money as our guys, and that's not fair, it's not right. So I think that we tried to bring it in line so that they're getting the same as everybody else that's there, or within a couple dollars here and there, depending on, but it's within that ballpark. I think that's fair. We're not looking to jack it up and say, we're from New Ipswich, we're worth twice as much money as you. We're just saying, this is what we have deemed fair and reasonable for all these other towns. We want to fall in line with that as well.
So what is the FEMA rate for an hourly, what does FEMA pay for,
I can tell you that FEMA is a negotiated rate, and the only reason I know that is because they were looking to send, I don't think there's not an hourly rate in FEMA, I have to look at it, my cell phone might die. But I can tell you, we looked at, from the state, sending people down to the hurricanes in Texas and in Florida, and I'm on the incident management team for the Seacoast, and their thing to us was, you have to negotiate the rate that you want to go down there as. So what they were looking at was what, and I don't know that anybody did negotiate, because nobody ended up going, on that IMET team, so I don't know. So I think the guys that were going, if they had gone through their municipalities, were going at their rate plus time and a half, because it would have been an overtime, so it would have been straight rate for their first 8 hours. So if I go on a wildland thing, mine was straight time for the first 8 hours and then time and a half after that.
Time and a half based on what, though?
My hourly rate.
You're not on an hourly rate, you're on a stipend.
That's why we took the state rate of $20 an hour.
The state.
Oh, no, are you talking about wildland fires?
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about as a up until now. When I went out as the state to do medical stuff on a wildland fire,
Mhm.
I got 8 hours of straight pay and everything else was
But
time and
that's
a half.
based on your full-time job.
That's based on my salary rate, yes.
Your full-time job, not the town. Because you,
I don't understand why that
you
makes
work
a
for the
difference.
state, right?
I did, yeah.
Okay. So that's what, when you say based on my salary or my
Right.
rate, it's that rate, it's
Right.
not the
So
town.
we don't have an hourly rate here in town for our
Correct.
guys. So we
Correct.
took the $20 rate that the state pays them and said, this is their base rate, and went time and a half.
The state pays who $20 an hour?
anybody that sits in a class?
Anybody who sits in a class,
In a class.
a call-in volunteer guy that does not have an hourly rate. So if our guys worked an hourly rate of $12.75, I would have based this on $12.75 at time and a half. They don't. We don't have an hourly rate, so we based it on that $20 an hour that they would get paid because they're considered call-in volunteers to be able to go take those classes. That's where I got the $20 from. Because otherwise, you're grabbing at,
Mm-hmm.
depends on, I mean, their stipend's their stipend, whether they work 1 hour a year or 100, well, not really, because we have a sliding thing now, but, so we had to come
And-
somewhere, so we took, the only one we could find was the $20.
And I would think staying with the $20 and adding the FICA and Medi and whatnot that we need to is the baseline that would be
And I-
more reasonable.
And I.
Yeah.
I disagree.
We understand, but we can do that.
And again, I'm looking at the clientele that is doing these, and it's a great opportunity for our guys to go over there and work with other departments and be able to interact, and we get invited to those things because we're good enough to be there. That my guys should be getting paid the same as everybody else. And if there was a straight rate, if Jaffrey Fire said, we're gonna pay everybody X amount, I would expect that we would pay X amount. If they come back in 2 years and say, you know what, we're not paying this rate here and this rate here, this rate here, we're paying this rate. We're not, I don't wanna go when Newsworth says, well, we're only paying this rate. Our guys are just as good as everybody else out there. So why shouldn't they get the same amount as everybody else? And we don't really do anything with Brookline and Mason. Obviously, Brookline doesn't do details, they say. We don't do events over there because there aren't any events for us to do. So the big events that we do are Jaffrey, Peterborough. I mean, we're talking 1 or 2 a year. And everything in the community, we're still doing under our stipends. And we're still billing the trucks. If they want a truck, we're gonna take those FEMA, because it only shows up as a FEMA equipment rate is what it shows up as, if I hit the link. It doesn't come up as an hourly rate for, it just gives a breakdown, equipment schedule. It doesn't give a personnel rate. And I'm thinking that's because it's negotiable, but I don't know that for sure. So we have to have some
What's your
kind of
pleasure?
decision because the guys did work the Jaffrey one, and we did bill that amount. Because I sent an email,
We haven't paid it, but it was billed.
yeah, and that was weeks ago, so
See,
technically.
why would something like that have occurred if you knew we did not make a decision yet on this?
I had to make a decision because the Jaffrey thing was coming up. I sent this to you, or I sent this to Joanne August 1st, looking for an answer, and I didn't get an answer, and we had to bill it. They asked us for a bill, and they said, can you please bill it? We billed it. And then I said we could look at further, but I had to make a decision. This isn't like, well, we can't work until we get the decision. They had to have the money,
Well, it could have passed on it, no?
I suppose.
I guess.
Well, I'm looking at it, it's not a cost incurred by residents of North Switch. I don't appreciate inflated rates myself as far as even police details when I know what we charge contractors. But at the same time, it seems to be the going rate. And if a town's willing to pay us that dollar amount, have issue with it, but not so much that I would say no to it.
Yeah, just in my mind, I'm saying, well, why are you charging an overtime rate when this is a volunteer thing? If the person wants to go, they can go. Here's the rate. It's more than what they're getting for not doing anything, and it's a decision they made. I guess it always reminds me of the scenario of, well, that's not gonna cost us anything because the federal government's paying for it.
I understand that, yeah,
That's us.
I totally understand that.
If I had that mentality, then those rates would be a whole lot higher.
I use it as an example,
Right.
okay?
Well, let me give you this
Let's see.
example then, go ahead. Then
No,
I'll give you an
I'm-
example. When I go out on wildland fires, there are Because again, it's the federal government, so, not my money, doesn't matter, it is my money, it's my tax money. But I can sit and work and do the exact same job as somebody else who is getting paid because of the contract agreement they have port to port. From the time they leave the house to the time they get home, for 3 weeks, 24/7, they're getting paid. And I'm sitting there making 16 hours a day, 8 of which is straight pay and 8 of which is time and a half. And that balances out. That's wrong. And I can look at somebody who negotiates because he brings his own bag, even though I bring my own medical bag, and he's negotiated a rate of $1,000 a day, and he's considered himself the operator, and yet there I sit at my hourly rate. That goes a long way against the camaraderie of doing the right thing. So what we're trying to do is make it so that our guys feel like they're worth just as much as everybody else that's sitting there. So we try to keep the rate same, so that it's apples and apples and oranges, and it's not, well, you're from Jaffrey, that's why you get paid more, you're from Peterborough, that's why you get paid more. We're all going the same detail that's being paid by the same person. They should get the same amount of money. That's the way I see it. I don't see it that because they're Jaffrey, they should get more, because they're Peterborough, or we, because we're more cost intuitive, should get less. I see that these people are this, and these people are this person's paying it, they should all be paid the same amount.
But you're
Or within
looking
the same
only
amount
at
of-
2 communities.
That's all
and-
the communities we ever do.
Well, suppose Mason called you and said, hey, we need a detail, could you come down here? You wouldn't say no, I wouldn't think.
And then the cost would be based, I mean, if it was Mason, then we wouldn't be charging them, because that's our mutual aid agreement. If it was Joe Schmo's Circus times 3, and they're billing everybody, then we're gonna go with our detail rate.
Mhm.
But who's to say that Mason's detail rate doesn't come up there too, because they're gathering the same information we're gathering? So they may end up there too.
Yeah.
Just curious, how big is our pump truck in there?
We're 1,500 gallons.
Okay. So that's $78.90 an hour is what they would charge.
We sent the 2,000 gallon.
So 2,000, that's $81.40 an hour.
And then there's a driver, which it probably doesn't show on there.
It doesn't show, no.
Yeah, and it may
Yeah,
be-
it says all the,
It may be
it should,
I can't remember exactly what we billed, is it on there? It said FEMA rates,
Yeah.
I don't know.
yeah,
Wendy
no,
has
because
that.
these are just for the equipment, it just,
Yeah.
it says.
Wendy has that specific, what we billed them for the hourly rate.
Yeah.
We billed exactly whatever popped up on the FEMA, and the reason that we didn't put the amounts in for the vehicles was because we wanted to be able to have the capabilities in a few years.
Right, as FEMA
If
changes.
FEMA changes next year or whatever, to change, just like we would change if wildland changed, that amount would change.
You know, I guess my take on it is, I don't, if our guys are doing the same amount of work with the same amount of skill, and we're being charged X amount of dollars from Peterborough, if you do a detail there, or Jaffrey, if you do a detail there, I don't see any reason why we're not charging equal rates to those towns. So if they're charging us $50, we should at least be able to charge $50. If we're doing the exact same job, exact same equipment, exact same skill of firefighters, I don't see why we should give a discounted rate if our firefighters are and should be equal skill. That's gonna be my take on it. If Peterborough charges X, Jaffrey charges X, then why should we give our guys at a discount rate? That's my take on it.
So you're saying the rate, say Jaffrey's at 35, we go to Jaffrey, we charge 35. If Mason's at 22, we go to Mason, we charge 22.
No, what I'm saying is, I don't see, if they're charging 35, but we feel, or David feels that, 35 is too much because that's time and a half based on their rate, I don't think we should give a cut rate plan if our guy, so if our rates are based on a.
No, I got all that, John. What I'm saying, but is if you wanna go rate for rate.
No, I'm not saying rate for, what I'm saying is, if these are, and I'm taking this off of Meredith's presentation to us, if these are standard rates based off the two towns we do details with the most, then I believe I don't see any problem with charging a rate that is in the same ballpark as their rate. I don't think we should, give a cut rate plan. I'm not saying we always match their rate. What I'm saying is, if their rate, averages, or both of them are in that ballpark, I don't see a problem with paying our guys in that ballpark. I don't see why we should pay them $20 an hour if, which is the state, classroom rate, if the other guys say that, are at a different rate. So what I'm saying is, I think we should be in that same ballpark as those two towns. I mean, I don't have those exact numbers, obviously, because they're on different things, but what I'm saying is we should at least pay our guys in the same ballpark as the other two towns. So if I had an average of those, exactly what Jaffrey charged us for a detail, then I'd say, you know what? So if we had asked Jaffrey to come out and do a detail and we had a bill for them, we go, well, that's Jaffrey's rate. And if we had one for Peterborough, we go, that's Peterborough's rate. Our guys should be somewhere in that ballpark. That's my take on it. I don't know what that dollar figure is, but I don't think we should shortcut our guys if they're doing the same work and they have the same skill.
But we're not doing detail work for those towns. What we're doing for are private enterprises, correct?
Which are making money.
Okay, just so that we're clear, we're not doing it for
We're not doing it for
the
the.
town.
We're doing it for those towns, but if
Their
that, if
towns
that,
are the people that are doing the same service that we're doing.
so,
Correct.
so my thing is, okay, if somebody in Peterborough hired the Peterborough Fire Department, so a Peterborough business hires the Peterborough Fire Department and says, we need a detail, what do they charge?
They have a Meredith, correct me if I'm wrong, it's not the Peterborough Fire Department. You're saying that they're volunteers, but I thought they were a hourly
They're per diem.
workforce. Per diem, define per diem.
They don't work 40 hours a week.
Okay, but just define what their pay structure is set up based upon.
They get paid an hourly rate,
Okay,
but it's
our,
different based on their different training.
But where our guys, we for us, when you say, like, our per diem at the end of the year, that, our
We don't have
guys,
per diem
right, but they get their
stipend.
stipend, thank you.
You're welcome.
So they get their stipend at the end of the year. We know that lieutenants get a certain
Yep.
level to, base, that's their start, and then they, go from there. So what you're saying is, for them, if they are a lieutenant with 20 years on and X number of, skill level set, they have a hourly rate that when they're on, they get paid that hourly rate.
Correct.
and that hourly rate is what?
I don't know, I'd have to check.
It's not anywhere near what our stipend rate would equate out to.
No, our stipend rate equates out to about $4.
Peanuts,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right, no,
So
That's why we took the
they're under
$20
contract
rate.
for certain rates, and I think that's how they get up to these rates. But we're not there, but we wanna give the opportunity for the firefighters that they so choose to earn additional income. I'm just looking at it, be somewhat reasonable, because I don't think, when you look at it, that any of our fire department employees would be making that type of a rate on a standard work, where they work.
I
That's,
was making more than that.
you're the chief also, so let's
yes, but I mean, we have guys,
No,
I
at the
mean,
state-
equate out.
No, at the state level, I was making more than that. On a wildland fire, I make more than that. The going rate, the hourly rate for a wildland, for a line EMT for wildland is.
I'm not equating this
34.
out to a firefighter's rate. I'm just looking at it to say
No, you
what
just
the,
said our guys
as what they do for a living.
I don't know about that, I
don't
mean,
think
if
that
you,
makes
if,
any difference.
Okay.
Why should that make any difference? Because,
Because I'm just
I guess
looking
my
to say
question-
this would be a average rate for a normal working person. And that's what we're asking them to go do, go work. But it's here nor there, I think we're going along. If someone would like to make a motion so we can move along to the other business, I'd entertain that.
do we want this to reflect before you make your motion, or do you wanna discuss it after? Make the motion and I can discuss it.
I can tell you now, the rates, if they were approved, need to be adjusted because when we're paying them these rates, they are now an hourly rated employee, and I believe that's gonna throw us into FICA, Medi,
Yeah.
the
And
other
that-
items,
And that cost needs to
which,
be,
yep,
and that
an
cost-
administration fee's gonna have to be
and that cost
calculated.
gets recouped in this same bill.
I understand.
So that hourly rate will take care of all expenses.
So what I'm saying, do we want to adjust this so that this becomes the rate, and we figure out what the employer would fit and take that out of that? That's what I'm asking. Because Roger was saying you need to raise the rate, well, you guys don't like the rate as it is. If I raise it, that's even more. If this becomes the rate, and we put in there that the deduction for FICA and Medicare on the employer, I know it has to be worded different because it's not legal if you do it that way. But if that's the way it is and they end up making $28.50 and change, because that we have figured in that rate that we were missing because we didn't get it figured out with Roger, then that's fine, adjust those down, that difference, so that we're not going over those rates.
And that
I'm fine with that.
I could almost be in favor of that.
I'm fine with that.
I actually like that, cause I think,
That's what I thought this dollar figure
Right.
Well,
was.
see, up until we had this whole thing with Roger, we thought that's what this was too. Not thinking that,
And I'm looking at just the opposite.
no,
This is what goes into the guy's check.
Well, that's what I was.
Then I gotta add FICA, I gotta add
Yeah.
Medi, I gotta add
yeah, see,
administration, and
that's
this
like
rate
us,
is
like when we do
just.
stuff, yeah, for me, get
so
like,
I think if I could amend that to be, that is the total expense, and however you word it, you can word it, cause you're better at wording these things than me. That's the money that we're going to bill Jeffrey, and employer and employee, FICA, Medicare is all going to come out of that.
$30 including T and B.
Uh,
In
in
administration.
administration,
And-
yeah.
Okay, I'm good with that, then I
Well, I think
make a motion.
administration fee, we can add on to that. I think administration fee maybe should be separate, cause that's Roger's hourly rate, isn't it?
I think like on the,
Or we could put
Police
an
detail, it's just a-
administrator, if you look at,
what is it, 1% or
if
something?
you look at FEMA and those kind of things, they do have an administrative rate. So does the wildland details have administrative rate.
I think our administrative rate on police details is like 1%, and I'm saying I would just take it out of there.
Okay.
I'm make a motion to accept these rates, with them including TB and administration in that figure,
Define your TB.
tax and benefits.
And I think that's totally reasonable, cause that's where we thought we were
And a
stuck.
1% administration.
And administration fee, yes.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That was a long way around to the same answer. I got.
Congratulations on your retirement,
Thank you.
chief.
2 whole days.
No longer with the state?
Nope. Friday was my
Is that
last
good or
day.
bad?
Oh, it's awesome. You add up the stuff and it added up to I could retire and I did that. So you're stuck with me now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can we get a check cut then?
Not yet. It's gonna get calculated.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'll have Wendy talk to Roger.
All right. No, you'll talk to Roger. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes? Excuse me, of September 26th for public and non-public?
Yes. That's it.
Was that a motion?
Yeah.
Yes.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 This was what Peter put together, regarding the paving for Temple Road, from Turnpike Road out to the intersection of Temple and Greenville. He did go back to Mitchell Sand and Gravel to see if they would be able to do it, because in that letter we received, it said that they would know better in 2 weeks, and they told him no. He went back to Brock's, who was the second low bidder on the original package. Excuse me. And I guess looking, and just to update you, John, when we awarded the paving, we had gotten 2 numbers from each of the pavers, one for using virgin asphalt mix and the other one to use recycled asphalt pavement as a aggregate within it. And Mitchell, bless you, Mitchell did not use recycled asphalt pavement as a binder in their mix. And their price, I believe, was $59.50 a ton. Yeah, $59.50 a ton. Brock's with the recycle is at 58, and they'd be at 64 with the virgin mix, and they're $1.38 a square yard to pulverize, and we were at 75 cents. My suggestion or discussion here would be, oh, before going to that, you'll also see there was another price from Advanced Excavating, and their pricing was quite a bit higher on the tonnage.
Yeah.
I guess at this point, my recommendation would be is that we go with Brock's, go with the recycled asphalt mix at the 58, and at the $1.38 a square yard, we should be pretty close to where we were with Mitchell. And this is what's gonna come out of the highway block grant that we got from the state.
It was 128, correct?
For some, yeah, I thought 124, but somewhere in there.
Look in your budgets, it's on the, I think I gave you budgets, and it is on the back.
When'd you give me the budget?
They're in that folder, the red folder.
Now, everything else we've binder coated with, we've done with a virgin mix,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
So why would we not do this with a virgin mix?
Well, on all the other roads we had done previously, they were with the recycled.
Okay.
And
Now, reading this though, we're not gonna get any top coat out of this, correct?
any what?
A top coat? on-
Yeah, we would.
That's not what I read.
And I don't know if it's in here or not, but I know when I did speak with Peter, machine paid, 1,000, 2-inch single course in 1 month. Okay, at that point, it was with binder, and I did ask him today, and I don't know if it's in here, was
No, I didn't
to
see it.
check with them. I'm assuming the tonnage price would stay the same, but also if they'd be able to do the top coat. And I'm thinking if we start at Turnpike, and as far as our budget gets
Yeah,
us,
right.
just,
Well, it doesn't look like it's gonna get us far, cause if we're paying 95 to do the base, that leaves us, 33, well, I guess we might get some distance out of it.
but remember too, is that the, cost for doing Page Hill and Fair and what we've done on
Greenville?
Greenville to date is below the 600,000 from the warrant article.
Oh, okay, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, I think, I think he was thinking it was in the 550, 575 area.
So if
And
we
we had
got
also spoken at one time about if it gets us a little further, was taking 50,000 out of the initial highway block grant that we have from the town.
The 128.
Yeah.
That's the original one. That's
Is
why
that
I
the
have
original one?
128. That's
Yeah,
where that comes from.
yeah.
If they can do it, I'd love to see it done.
Yeah, and I
They're
don't
willing to
see
do it.
why they, if, you know, if they're all set up out here with the equipment, hey, just,
Keep going.
Keep
till you run out of
going.
Money, right, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I'm good with that.
Yeah. The only concern I would have is that we've got, what we've done down there, we've done with a virgin base, and then we're gonna go with a
Recycle,
recycled
yeah.
base.
And I look at is that, you know, using the recycled asphalt in the mix is acceptable by the New Hampshire DOT standards on state work, so.
Yeah, why did we go with the virgin mix on the other ones? I'd
Just thinking that we,
get more out of it by going with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and where the price was cheaper.
Yeah.
So it was
I
like,
know, that was.
we didn't have an option to go to the,
That was kinda odd.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with getting that done, certainly. So, you wanna plan on
Okay.
spending the 124, is that?
Whatever the, that's the original one, 127,555.
No, that's the new one.
That's the new one?
Yep.
Okay,
So that was close at
Yeah,
128.
yep, yep.
So, and 95 of that will be spent on base, so we'll get,
so you've got 30 plus whatever we have
plus
left
whatever's
over.
left over from the original paving warrant articles. I would rather not see us take anything out of the, first block grant.
If it's there,
Yeah, but there are other things. I know what you're saying. Right, if we can get it done,
yeah,
as Larry would say, get her done. Yeah, I'll make a motion that we award to Brock's the contract to grind, bind, and top as much as we can from Turnpike down to the Greenville Road intersection.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And that will start when, through, middle of October, correct?
2 to 3 weeks.
Okay, so if anybody asks, I can say, middle of October, we should be, boy, remind me not to go to Italy. Usually gets you about this time of night, huh? Yep.
And when I'm on the phone.
Thank you.
Did that go out? The letters that you wrote?
Yes, I did.
Okay. What I've been negligent in, and I wanna look through it, I don't know if gentlemen have looked at it, was the, building maintenance report from Mark and the proposal for exterior painting of town buildings.
This is for all, or
Well, he gave us a,
okay.
report, I think
Take a
this,
look, yeah.
only one in here, but, just quickly scanning this report, he wrote, fire station, office buildings. Back of the building needs to be cleaned out, old boat, fire hoses. They did that this weekend. Well, when I was down at the transfer station, they were there unloading it. So that was good to see.
What is it?
The old, an old boat and
Oh.
hoses that were behind the fire station.
Oh,
I guess
okay.
the,
Good.
fire department members
Yeah,
cleaned it out and brought it to the transfer station.
good. You're not gonna wanna sit here and wait for me to read through all of them.
No, but if we can read it and address it at next
Sure.
week,
Yeah.
that would be good.
I think I need to copy that, Mark's,
There's only one,
yeah, let me copy that.
okay,
The kind of-
thank you, yeah.
We're gonna bother to, paint the old highway garage?
No. Should we entertain putting a warrant article to demo that?
Is that the one across the street from the fire department?
Yeah,
They're not storing anything in there anymore?
doesn't look it, considering I drove by this weekend, it looked like there was a truck parked on the side of, fire station,
Yeah, I saw that
outside,
too.
so I'm thinking, oh, they must not be,
That would have been a question for Meredith while we had her here.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, if they're not being used, but,
Well, we don't heat it, and we don't light it at this point, right? It's more of a.
But we're probably paying a service bill on it for electric at the old, DPW building across from the fire station.
Mhm. Good job.
I don't know.
I just don't know, looking to the future, do you ever see that that building would be useful for anything?
It's a catch-all, really, is what it is. I don't know, do we need this storage? That's the question. That would be a question for Meredith or whoever's using it. There's nothing highway down there, nothing police down there. So, I mean, if Meredith isn't using it, although we have 3 trailers. Like,
Why
emergency
was I
management.
thinking they were here? Are they not here?
There's one, I believe, that's in here,
Okay.
but I don't know where the other 2.
One I think is in the fire department. It's a short one I've seen in there, in that short bay.
I guess it's a question for Meredith.
Yeah.
I would have no opposition to it, because it's falling down anyway, but if we're using it, then maybe we should hang on. Just a thought.
Could you make a note to check with her, see if they're using that at all, or have any intent?
This is the old highway garage. right?
Yes.
Across the street.
Anything else you wanna discuss this evening?
So Halloween? Well, it's October
yeah, it's on the Tuesday this year.
31st,
Can't have a selectmen's meeting on Halloween, can we?
No!
and 5 to 7, does that work? That's what the police chief requested.
Sounds
Works for me.
great.
And for budgeting, we need to know if you want salary increases for next year.
We did merit increases this year in the 0 to 3%, we budgeted 3%.
3%,
We did a COLA of 1% and a
2%.
2% merit last year.
I guess we gotta know what the COLA is going into next year, right? The budget for that.
And that normally doesn't get published until, I think it's November, or maybe the end of October, sometime in November, that the federal government publishes that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd only be right to figure a cost of living in there, certainly.
But for the last, even that 1% that year, I think it may have been 0 or 0.0. It wasn't much. And last year, I think, was the same. Just from memory. But,
Yeah.
what about merit?
I don't know, I'd have to do a salary comparison, like you had mentioned earlier, with what other towns of our size are paying
Yeah.
employees. I'm not opposed to either, I just need a little
Yeah.
more research, that's all.
Well, just, yeah. Do your research.
Okay, so we'll just put that on hold, or your research.
Sure.
So you can look.
Can you check with NHMA
Yeah,
when
if
the,
Somebody here could do the research for me, that would be even better.
no, you do your research. You get on that computer.
Yeah,
You
oh,
download,
yeah.
you download from New
I'll
Hampshire
take out-
Municipal.
Get my abacus out.
No,
Figure out rates.
you're way too young to use that for an excuse. But if I recall, didn't NHMA now go on a 2 or 3 year cycle for publishing the rates?
Yeah, I think so, I don't know what year they're on now.
Well, the last one was 14,
Oh, okay,
so can you
yep.
see where that is? And can I confirm that we did give them our information?
Yes, we did.
Good. There was something else I wanted to bring up and I'm just drawing a blank, so. We had non-public listed on there.
Yes, I asked for that. Employee,
Make a motion?
I need to
Oh,
start to read it, I don't have it memorized, this is only the first time I've asked for one, so which one is it? You're not gonna tell me?
I don't know, I gotta read them too.
Is it A, the dismissal, promotion, and compensation?
There you go.
Alright, make a motion to go into a non-public session, RSA 91A3, paragraph A, section 2, paragraph A, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, or the disciplining of such employee, or the investigation of any charges against him or her unless the employee affected has a right to a meeting.
Just reference them. You don't have to read the whole thing. I'd like to amend that though and also reference the one about legal discussion.
Have any idea what I'm headed for?
Should be right below there.
C, matters which if discussed in public would likely affect. 2C,